CNBC just aired an interview with Light Street Capital's founder Glen Cacher, where he revealed his big 5 AI stocks, calling him his AI 5. Now, not surprisingly, you're going to recognize all of these names, but are those the real opportunities in the new race for AI? Well, let's find out. James Altucher is here with us today, and James published his first academic paper on AI in 1991. He helped work on an AI chess program called Chip Test, which later was bought by IBM and renamed it Deep Blue, the computer that famously beat chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov. James even wrote his own AI trading programs for his day trading activities back in 2002. So if you want real insider's perspective on AI, James is your go-to guy. James, welcome. Thanks for coming on the channel.
Oh my God, I watched that clip, Doug. I don't know why CNBC is still in business. It's like they take anybody off the street and they all say the same thing. Well, Apple, Microsoft, Intel looks interesting to me. I mean, this guy's AI 5, and no criticism to him. I'm sure he works very hard at his job and so on. No criticism to him. His AI 5, his quote-unquote AI 5, is Microsoft, NVIDIA, Broadcom, TSM, the symbol's TSMC, AMD. I mean, is he joking? It's like, oh, don't tell anyone. Here's my secret AI 5. Hey, everyone, buy Microsoft. Don't tell anyone. They're getting into AI. Like Microsoft, NVIDIA, this was not just the AI 5. 5 years ago, this was like the crypto 5. 5 years before that, it was the gaming 5. Before that, it was the internet 5. Some of these were the microcomputer 5. Like these were just happened to be the biggest tech companies in the world. And yeah, they're all getting into AI because there's a lot of money to be made in AI. I mean, Microsoft probably is famously, invested in OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, NVIDIA, which was doing gaming chips now and crypto mining chips, now renamed them so that they're AI chips. Yeah, these companies, and AMD is making neural computing chips. Like, yeah, these companies have always been investing in the latest technology. So, of course, they're the AI 5. Much more interesting to me, though, are the companies that are set to go up 100, 200, 500% because they're changing the way industry looks at AI and uses AI. I kind of think, all the economists have been predicting recession. And I kind of think, and I was predicting a recession, and I kind of think the reason we've been avoiding a recession is because AI is literally transforming the economy as we speak. Like for anybody who has begun to use AI in their job or even in their personal life, you've already seen that AI incredibly makes you more efficient and productive. It speeds up any task that you have. And for companies all across the world now, they're using AI to increase their efficiency. And I have, some companies we could talk about that you'll see the examples.
Yeah, I just read something, and we talked about this earlier this week, James. I thought it was Bloomberg, but don't quote me on this. They wrote an article that said something to the effect of 100% of the S&P 500 gains in 2023 could be attributed to AI. Now, I don't know how they figure that out. You would probably know better than I would. But that's a staggering stat if that's true.
Well, all the gains in the S&P 500 last year, the S&P 500 was up over 20%. And all the gains came from the biggest companies. Guess what? Microsoft, Google, Amazon, NVIDIA. These are all companies that are heavily investing in AI. When people realize that Microsoft, has invested over $10 billion in OpenAI, Microsoft stock shot up. So yes, all the gains in the S&P 500 came from those top companies. But this year, all of those companies are all fine companies. No one's going to ever criticize NVIDIA or Microsoft or whatever. But this year, I really expect it's going to be the small cap and micro cap companies that AI is completely transforming their business. Those are going to be the real leaders in the S&P 500 this coming year. Like Microsoft is a multi-trillion-dollar company, so a $10 billion investment in OpenAI doesn't change the universe for them. But some of these other companies that we're going to talk about, their whole entire business is changing because of AI.
Let me ask you this, because a lot of people are comparing this era of AI to the late 90s and early 2000s around the dot-com era. And if that's true, some people would say, hey, they're too expensive. These stocks, like NVIDIA, is up over $600, like $650 right now a share. And while that number is a big number, why couldn't it go to 1,000? So what is your take on that? Is AI pricing itself out of the market, or is this just the beginning of a trend that's much longer lasting than we might think?
This is a game-changing trend. So let's look back at the internet as an example. So the internet had a lot of hype, or the web, I should say, had a lot of hype in the mid to late 90s, but there weren't the users yet. It wasn't quite in every household. People were afraid to put their credit cards, for instance, into the internet. That didn't start to get resolved to the mid-00s, really, where people stopped saying, oh, the internet's just a fad, for kids or academics or whatever. AI is different. This is the first technology where I've seen the hype equal the reality, where there's so much hype about it. You usually think, okay, well, there's a lot of hype, but we got to play that down a little bit to see what's real. The reality is actually probably greater than the hype, that AI has more capabilities now than people who are even hyped up about it realize. I mean, there's also negative hype about AI, which is that, oh my gosh, once AI becomes intelligent, there's going to be robots like the Terminator that are going to destroy the world. And literally, like, movie studios are rushing to come out with movies where, AI set off a nuclear explosion to solve, too much population growth among humans. So climate change, like, it's ridiculous, the plot lines I'm seeing using AI and coming out of Hollywood. But right now, here's the way I would think of AI. Whatever you need help with in your life or in your business, that could be partially or completely automated. That's what AI is used for. AI is like the best assistant / factory worker / repetitive worker that out there. Like, I'll tell you, even for my podcast, if I have someone on my podcast and assume I've done all my research, I've read all their books, whatever, I've seen videos, interviews with them, I'll still ask AI, give me some good questions to ask, Mark Cuban or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or whoever. And AI will usually bring up some good questions. Some of them I would have thought of, some of them I didn't. So those become my backup questions just in case I get stuck in the podcast. Like, AI is a great virtual assistant for many things.
Well, I definitely want to ask you a question about a site or a tool that involves AI. I'm going to save that for the last question of this interview. But for now, what I would like to do, James, is talk about 5 of your favorite companies that are in the AI space for your Altucher Investment Network readers. So if you were to go through your reports and your portfolio, give us your first favorite AI stock that you're recommending right now.
Yeah, and I can't say any of them necessarily is a favorite. Like, I think all of these. Here's the thing: the smaller companies. This is the great thing about smaller companies. You mentioned, could NVIDIA go to 1,000? Yes, it could. That would be a great return. But that's a 60% return. I like to look at companies that have the potential for hundreds of percent. Because even if you're wrong about one or two of them, if you have just one pick that goes up hundreds or even 1,000%, that makes your whole portfolio. So the idea behind that philosophy is you don't have to invest as much cash, and you could get enormous benefit. You could even make more money than if you put just all your money into the stock market.
You're going to give us 5, your first of 5. It's no particular order. It's like ranking your children. I know you don't have a favorite child.
Sometimes I do.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes, honestly, everybody has a little bit of a favorite child. It doesn't have to stay consistent. Sometimes one daughter is my favorite. Sometimes another daughter is my favorite.
Fair enough. All right. So what's your first AI stock that you want to talk about today?
Yeah. Let's take a look at SoundHound. Do you know SoundHound?
Yes.
So not a lot of people know it. And have you ever used the app Shazam?
No.
So Shazam, you got to get Shazam. And it's the SoundHound. I thought maybe you had heard of that because it's a very popular app. SoundHound has a very similar app. But Shazam, if you're listening to a song and you're like, oh, I love that song, what is it? You turn on your Shazam on your phone and it tells you what song it is. So it listens to the song and it tells you what it is. SoundHound has a similar app. SoundHound is probably the premier cutting edge company for voice recognition. So what can you do if you're really great at voice recognition? Well, you can do what I just described, like this music recognition app, but also they have a great technology that basically every drive-through restaurant chain is starting to buy, where you're passing through the drive-through and you say, I'll have, 2 hamburgers and a fries. SoundHound software is replacing humans at the drive-through. Now, what if you call up? They just signed a deal with Jersey Mike's, for instance. If you call up Jersey Mike's and say, I want to order a sandwich, SoundHound is the software that you speak to. And the technology is good. It's not really horrible like legacy systems have been. They're also getting into the customer support space where you call up and you talk to an AI about what your troubles are. And they're getting into all sorts of helplines. Basically, right now, SoundHound is dealing with 230 million voice recognition inquiries a month, meaning that's how many uses there are per month. And what about their revenues? Well, they went from 10 million in revenues 2 quarters ago to 13 million in revenues last quarter to up to 20 million in revenues this quarter. They said 16 to 20 million. That's up from 13. That's a significant increase. And that's up from 10 just 2 or 3 quarters ago. They're going to they claim they're going to be EBITDA profitable this quarter. We'll see. But they've got 100 million cash in the bank anyway. And this is just a $1.80 stock. Like, I personally think this company is going to get acquired by an Amazon. So Amazon's got about $2 trillion market cap. Maybe, I forget if it's 2 or 3 trillion. And of course, they're going to buy SoundHound or some company like that. SoundHound's a drop in the bucket for them. Really good investors are in SoundHound. So I think that's a great small cap / micro cap stock that could move a lot over this next year. I think it's going to be acquired over this next year. I think they're better as part of a bigger company than by themselves. So that's one company. That's all right, my AI one. Then
before you go on to that one, like, that sounds very interesting to me. To like Siri, I use Siri all the time, and it's terrible. It doesn't work very well. It's not very efficient in its delivery of results or answers and that sort of thing. But if SoundHound were functional like that, would it prevent me from being able to order like a plane ticket or order an Uber? Say I need an Uber where I am right now and have it order me an Uber. Could it do that? I mean, is that functionality available?
Absolutely. I mean, for instance, it's being installed in cars. They have a big product about it's called Drive Intelligence, where you could be in your car driving and you could say, bring up the map for, I want to drive to Doug's office, and it'll put up the map on my GPS for Doug's office, or turn on the radio and play the last 5 songs I found out using the SoundHound app. So
right.
It's being installed in cars. They have this great restaurant product. It's getting into customer service, and they have, this app. So the thing is, we're just in inning 1 in terms of use cases for AI. So the companies that are already like leaders in the space, they're just going to keep coming up with use cases and increasing their revenues along the way. So there's going to be, like you just said, anything that Siri does, this could do a lot better, and particularly in very specific industrial situations, whether it's hotels or booking a ticket or calling for an Uber or, calling customer service somewhere. I think the customer service space is going to be a lot of competition, but SoundHound and another company like Verint Systems they're probably going to be the winners in the customer service space. So Verint Systems, VRNT, is another company I really like. They basically, it's much more sophisticated than people realize. Like, it's not just, click 1 if you need help with an order, click 2 if you want to schedule an appointment. It's not like that. It's, describe your problem, and then it routes you to the appropriate department. And then it also keeps track of your emotional state. Like, right, is this person angry? Is this person happy? And if you're angry, maybe it needs to be routed right away to a manager. And if you're happy, maybe you can be upsold a new product. So it's very sophisticated where customer service is going, and it uses not just voice recognition, but emotion recognition and other things. And, very quietly, they've also been selling to countries, in particular countries that where the government is allowed to monitor their citizens' phone calls. And, there's lots of things you can do once you can monitor your citizens' phone calls in terms of like threat detection and terrorism and things like that. They don't do that in the U.S. because of privacy issues, but I think this is a company that has a lot of global use cases. It's spreading all over the world. It's fairly cheap. They recently spun out a company that is also exciting to me, but that's not the topic here. And I think they've been beaten down for a long time. They haven't really been considered an AI stock. A lot of these older companies that have been using AI all along, they haven't really been in the hot new AI plays, in part because they don't hit the front page of the Wall Street Journal like Microsoft does. But Verint Systems is very exciting to me. Another one is Dynatrace. So Dynatrace, they will do automation in the workplace. So they'll do what they do is they'll look at an assembly line and determine if something is going wrong on the assembly line. So if an assembly line is being powered by AI, like there's all robots on the assembly line replacing the human labor, Dynatrace will kind of overlook everything and see if there's something wrong, and then report the situation to the relevant managers or fix the problem automatically. Or even if on your desktop, if your desktop is there's something wrong or it's crashing too much, they'll figure out the problem and solve it. So Dynatrace is really good for automating the automation. And I think a company like that is very exciting. So, and there's a lot of great hedge funds that are loading up on that stock. So I'm pretty excited about it. And another one, and again, I think that one could be, that feels to me like that's a potential acquisition by a bigger company. So a bigger company might be Rockwell Automation, which does something similar, but is a much bigger company. I think they'd certainly be a potential acquirer for Dynatrace. Another one is UiPath. So UiPath, the symbol is PATH, and this takes a look at every process that can be automated will be automated, and they automate it. So for instance, they have a product for doctor's offices where, you know how you go into a doctor's office, oh, please fill out this form, and then the nurse takes your form and types it into the computer and it gets uploaded. So that's a long process, but Path has a product which makes it automatic. Like you fill out the form and it loads it directly into the database. The form might be on an iPad. It loads it directly into the database, and then it looks at prior forms that you've filled out with that doctor or other intelligence that they have, and determines like, oh, is something, this is contradictory to this person's health history. Something's going wrong. Like it'll use AI to figure out things that normally a doctor would have to spend time figuring out. So that's just one use case. Many companies are using it. Insurance companies are using Path to figure out fraud, to see what patterns, basically a fraud investigator is normally a human that looks for, some weird patterns or weird behavior that determine if there's fraud at the insurance company. And Path has ways of doing that automatically. It's like a smaller version of Palantir in that sense. So yeah. Path, good company, Fidelity, BlackRock, Renaissance, some of the biggest hedge funds and best hedge funds in the world are investing. Cathie Wood's ARK Investments has been piling up on Path. So these are, I don't know how many I've mentioned: Path, Dynatrace,
Verint, and
SoundHound. A little bit Rockwell Automation, which I think also is very exciting. So, and then sure, I do like the NVIDIAs and TSMs of the world, like that other guy's AI5. But if you really want like a good chip play that's going to be important in the AI space, it's important to take a look at ASML. So everybody knows, or a lot of people know about Moore's Law, which states that every 18 months, computer chips are going to get smaller. And that's been true ever since he said it in 1967. Every 18 months, computers have gotten faster, chips have gotten smaller, and so on. And by faster, I mean they double in speed, or you could double the number of chips you put inside a computer every 18 months. That's Moore's Law. So ASML, right now, the problem is to make chips that small, you're running up against literally the laws of physics. Like you're getting into things smaller than atoms at this point in terms of etching the circuitry onto a chip. ASML doesn't use traditional lasers. It uses like these ultraviolet lasers to etch the smallest chips possible. And so ASML, you need computing power to make the large language models that AI depends on. So ASML can etch with these ultraviolet devices the smallest chips out there. And the other companies we've mentioned among the chip makers have been buying either intellectual property or actual devices from ASML to make their chips. So ASML is kind of the chip play I would look at. Although again, the AI5 with TSMC and NVIDIA and Amazon, those are good too. TSMC is great, AMD is great, all of the guys' companies are great, but I just don't expect them to return 100, 200% anytime soon.
I'll just sum that up for you, for everyone that's watching. We've got SoundHound, we got Verint Systems, Dynatrace, UiPath, and ASML. Those are James Altucher's AI5. And if you're a reader of Altucher's investment network, you have access to the report. It's called the $1 Million Portfolio Report, and it is available on our website. Go ahead and check it out because there are, I think, 4 other companies that are listed in the AI report on the website. So go ahead and check that out. James, before we wrap up, I know that you like everyone's talking about ChatGPT and how it's, and you are yourself included, and how it's saving people time and running ideas and things through ChatGPT to focus and get themselves more productive. What other tools out there? I know you had one in mind that you wanted to talk about, but what other tools do you have out there that are using AI that people might find interesting and useful?
Yeah, well, there's useful and there's fun. So okay. I don't know if this one's useful, but I'm having fun with it. If you go to suno.ai, suno.ai, and if you type in, you go and you click on make a song, and you just type in some description of a song, like it'll make a pretty, I don't want to say it's a great song, but it's a starting point. So okay. If I type in, I'm gonna type in something. So if I say make an aggressive gangster rap song about how James Altucher is the king of all podcasts. Okay, and I'm gonna hit create. Okay, it's making the song now. It's making 2 songs. It gives me 2 choices. For King of the Airwaves. So let's listen. Oh, and the Altucher Empire. So I'll pick. It's still making King of the Airwaves. So I'll pick the Altucher Empire and I'll play that song. Okay, you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Listen up. I got something to say about a podcaster. Explain the game. James Altucher. Yeah, he's the name. The king of all podcasts. You better know the name.
That's just a sample. See, not great, but it does it.
All right, so that's Suno AI. So that's music for anyone that is not musically inclined, including myself, and needs help writing lyrics for, and I guess it creates music too for the...
Yeah, it has like an AI voice singing it that sounds like a real voice. And so it's something I consider putting at the front of my podcast, for instance. Or another thing is Pixelite.ai you put in a text description and it makes a t-shirt.
Well, we appreciate your time, James. Thank you very much. I mean, that's 5 stocks from James Altucher, James's AI5. What I'd like to do, James, is track those particular 5 picks over the next 3 years or so and see how those match up and how those compare to the hedge fund manager, I guess, who was running his own AI5 on CNBC. We'll keep an eye on that. Thank you very much.
$1 million. This portfolio defeats that portfolio.
Well, that's what I like to hear. Well, thank you all for watching. James, thanks for being here. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Doug.